My name is Elena Harper. 10 years. That's how long it's been since my family said my name aloud. And yet, it still hurts like they whisper it just to erase it. Most mornings, I pretend it doesn't matter. I pour my coffee. I run my meetings. I get things done. But this morning, an email slipped through. Brooks Family Reunion 2024, RSVP now. I wasn't on the list. Not by accident. Not by oversight. Just not there. I should have deleted it. Moved on. But then I checked something else. The family beach house. The one with my initials carved under the old bedroom window. Quietly listed for sale. No call. No vote. No signature from me. That's when I realized they weren't just moving on. They were scrubbing me out. Before I show you what I did next, before I show you the clause they forgot, the recording they never expected, and the day I made them say my name again, leave a comment if you've ever been erased by the people who should have known better. And hit like plus subscribe if you believe silence isn't peace. It's permission. Let me show you what happens when you stop waiting to be invited and start owning the keys. The waves glittered beyond the glass walls, sunlight stretching itself lazily across the Pacific. Santa Monica mornings always held that deceptive beauty. Tranquil, crisp, promising. Inside the 11th floor office of Lasker and Hartman Consulting, where glass and chrome formed Elena Harper's professional shell, everything hummed with quiet efficiency. The scent of citrus cleaner, the rhythmic tap of keyboard strokes, and the low murmur of marketing analysts in cubicles. All reminders that here, at least, she existed. She mattered. She leaned back in her ergonomic chair, sipping lukewarm espresso from a white ceramic mug that read, "Strategy is my love language." It was a joke from Jenna, of course. Jenna, who never let birthdays go unnoticed, who texted cat memes and sarcasm daily, who reminded Elena she wasn't entirely alone. Her eyes drifted toward the lone turquoise seashell perched on a recessed shelf beside her desk. She hadn't touched it in years. Its ridged spiral was still perfect, but dulled under a soft veil of dust. A birthday gift, back when her mother would braid her hair and call her my special girl. Now, it sat forgotten, like she had been. Her monitor pinged. Email. Routine, she thought. A client brief. Maybe another internal memo. But the subject line snapped through her like a whip. Brooks Family Reunion 2024, RSVP. Now she blinked once, then twice. The message stood stark, casual, celebratory. There was no "Dear Elena," no inclusion in the thread of replies below. Just an image banner with pastel-colored umbrellas and the tagline, "Bringing our family together since 1981. She scrolled. A spreadsheet with RSVP names was attached, neatly color-coded. Confirmed, pending, declined. She scanned the rows once, then again, slower. Melissa, Susan, Ethan, Jenna's ex even. But not her. No Harper, Elena. Not a typo. Not a misspelling. Simply absent. Her breath caught, sharp like a cracked rib. She had expected it, and yet somehow it still felt like a fresh wound. The silence of the past years pressed in again. Melissa's slippery messages. There was a technical error with the invite system. Susan's soft, patronizing tones. You understand, don't you? You're always so reasonable. Her phone buzzed. Jenna. Jenna Carter. Are you seeing this crap? Attached. A screenshot of a group chat. Melissa Harper. Let's keep it drama-free this year. She's not coming, LOL. Susan Harper, Ethan Harper. Elena read the words once, then again. They blurred. Drama-free. She used to be a daughter, a sister. Now she was a liability. A punchline. Her fingers trembled. She placed the mug down gently, afraid any sudden movement would cause something in her to shatter. Not this time, she whispered. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Opening a new browser tab, she typed slowly. Coastal Hollow Estate listing. The family beach house. The same one where she learned to swim, where her father had carried her on his shoulders into the surf. where the last photograph of the whole Harper clan had been taken before she was surgically cropped from the frame. There it was, quietly up for sale. No press release, no family discussion, just listed. She stared at the glossy images, the curved staircases, the pale wooden floors, the sun-drenched wraparound deck that always smelled of salt and memory. The final photo stopped her heart. Her bedroom window. The pale blue shutters were still there. Her cursor moved over the button. Schedule private tour. She didn't hesitate. She clicked. Some people scream when they're wounded. I search for deeds, not drama. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as the metal shutter groaned open. Dust motes danced in the shaft of sunlight cutting through the doorway. Elena stepped inside the storage unit, the scent of old paper and pine cleaner wafting up like a long-forgotten sigh. Rows of stacked boxes greeted her, neatly labeled, untouched for years. She had last been here 5 years ago, the same year she'd finally stopped answering calls on her birthday. Not that anyone had dialed. Her heels clicked softly against the concrete as she moved toward the back, toward the cedar trunk beneath the tarp. She pulled it free and lifted the lid. Faded photos, ticket stubs, half-filled journals. Then, buried behind a stack of appliance manuals, she saw it. The turquoise seashell. Her breath caught in her throat. Not the one from her office shelf. This was the original. Smaller, still vibrant, etched with tiny initials on the underside. E.H., age 10. Her grandmother's hands had pressed it into hers after a sandcastle collapsed under a careless foot. Even broken things belong somewhere. She closed her eyes. Beneath the shell lay a yellowed envelope. Her name written in ink, looping and deliberate. Elena Harper. Inside, the paper had gone brittle around the edges, but the handwriting remained strong. Evelyn's voice unfolded with each line. My dearest Elena, if you are reading this, I am no longer here to remind you of who you are. So let these words do what I cannot. You were always the one who noticed the small things, who asked questions others were too afraid to voice. You saw me, not just as Nana, but as a woman who lived, lost, and still stood tall. I see you too. The letter was more than memory. It was instruction. A page beneath it carried a legal stamp. Revocable trust agreement. Evelyn Harper. Clause 3.7. In the event that my descendants fail to maintain proper tax obligations or vacate Coastal Hollow Estate for more than 18 consecutive months, sole title transfers to my granddaughter, Elena Harper. Elena's hand hovered over the final page. Her name already printed in neat type under successor beneficiary. The silence in the unit sharpened. It wasn't revenge. It was the honoring of a contract sealed not in spite, but in fierce, protective love. By mid-afternoon, she sat across from Alan Reed in a glass-walled conference room in Newport Beach. He read silently for a few minutes, then looked up. It's airtight. She exhaled, careful not to let relief show. No contest? If they challenge it, they'll have to explain 6 years of unpaid property tax, deferred maintenance, and the fact that none of them ever formally assumed fiduciary responsibility after your grandmother passed. He pushed the paper across the table. Sign here. If no dispute is filed, the title's yours in 14 business days. Elena stared at the pen. Then she picked it up and signed. Alan capped it for her. And judging by the clause, they don't stand a chance. The sky was painted in late gold by the time she returned home. Her apartment was still, the city below buzzing in its usual rhythm. Horns, laughter, life. She slipped off her shoes, sat on the couch, and opened her laptop. The rental system interface loaded slowly, then displayed the full property listing for Coastal Hollow. Every room was booked for the upcoming reunion, except one. Oceanfront Master Suite. Available. Her eyes didn't flinch. Her hand didn't tremble. She clicked reserve. They controlled the guest list for years. This time, I own the venue. The light from my laptop screen reflected faintly on the glass of wine beside me, casting distorted shadows on the wall. Outside, Santa Monica slept beneath a grayish dusk, but my living room hummed with purpose. The time for tears had passed days ago. Now it was about precision. I sat barefoot on the couch, legs tucked under me as my fingers moved deliberately across the trackpad. The interface of the Coastal Hollow rental dashboard blinked patiently, waiting for my final inputs. Room assignments, guest amenities, access codes. It was all mine now. The last time I'd been in that house, I was 12. I still remembered the little brass plaque above the desk in the study. Elena's Corner, May She Dream Bold. I had written my first winning essay there, 1,000 words on kindness and grit. A year later, the plaque was gone. No explanation. Just gone. Like me. Jenna's text pinged. Jenna, Melissa just posted dibs on the master suite, Tucker family perks. She has no clue, does she? I smirked and shook my head. They'd made an art form out of erasure, but this time they were walking blindfolded into a room I lit myself. I clicked open the property profile and edited the booking notes. Guest preferences. Cotton sheets, no floral scents, extra soft towels, and full privacy. No interruptions. I knew exactly which room Melissa meant. The one with the balcony view, the walk-in closet, the bathroom with ivory tiling Evelyn had once joked made her feel almost royalty. That room was now mine. In a separate window, I opened the group chat Jenna had screenshotted earlier. Susan, can we put Jenna in Elena's old room? I think it's fine now. No weird vibes anymore, right? Melissa. Lowell agreed. Feels less haunted now that she's not in our lives. Susan. Exactly. She chose to leave. Actions have consequences. I paused, rereading that line. She chose to leave. No. I was pushed. I took a long sip of wine and turned back to the booking system. Each room assignment was a line of quiet revenge. Twin Garden Room, Jenna Carter, confirmed. Sunset Queen Room, Susan Harper, pending. Upstairs Corner Room, Melissa Harper, pending. Oceanfront Master Suite, reserved for Ms. E. Harper, confirmed. A small notification from the platform slid into view. Ownership verified. Contact, Ms. Elena Harper, owner, portal access granted. I opened a draft email to the concierge. The same team my family thought was managing things. Subject, champagne order. Hello, please ensure the bottle of Dom Perignon 2010 is chilled and delivered to the master suite by 6 p.m. on May 17th, addressed to Ms. Harper. I stared at the screen for a moment, then added, also, update the welcome signage in the foyer. Welcome home. Click. Send. Jenna's next message popped up. Jenna. You're doing it. For real. I wish I could see their faces when they realize. So did I. I whispered aloud, barely above breath. Let's see how they react when they have to say my name to stay. Another email landed. Subject. Reservation confirmed. Coastal Hollow Estate, full ownership, access granted. I leaned back, letting the silence swell around me. They had removed me from the list. Now I was the one holding the door. The reservation said Ocean View Estate. But when they arrived, the keycards didn't work. Neither did their last names. Golden light soaked the driveway as the black sedan pulled up beside the white stone steps. The scent of ocean salt drifted in the air, crisp and clean, unbothered by the rising tension pooling in the front seats. Melissa stepped out first, her platform sandals clicking sharply on the pavement. Susan followed, eyes squinting at the sleek facade of the Coastal Hollow Estate, her lips parted in cautious admiration. Ethan was last, lugging a duffel bag over his shoulder, earbuds still in. Jenna leaned against the decorative fountain, phone angled downward, screen already recording in silent mode. From this spot, she had a clean line of sight to the front desk, where a young receptionist named Callie wore a clipped smile and a tight black blazer. Melissa adjusted her sunglasses. Hi, we're here for the Harper family reservation. Callie blinked at her tablet. I'm sorry, I don't have that name on the approved check-in list. Susan stepped forward, her voice seasoned with authority. Susan Harper, The estate was reserved for our family reunion. Maybe try that? Clicking resumed. The screen refreshed. No guests under Harper are cleared to check in. Callie repeated. I can check again if you'd like. Melissa's laugh was light, but sharp. There must be some mistake. This is our house. Well, our family's house. Jenna tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and started a new clip. Her thumb slid over the zoom icon slowly. Susan turned to her. Jenna, could you please talk to the staff? Maybe give them your name? Jenna shrugged. I think you should wait a second. A silver SUV purred into the roundabout like it belonged there. The driver stepped out, opened the back passenger door, and Elena Harper emerged, her heels finding the ground with the weight of purpose. The sea wind caught the hem of her tailored coat, sweeping it gently behind her as she walked up the steps. Her expression was neutral. Not smug, not cold, just quiet fire. Mr. Grady, the property manager, appeared through the side corridor. Ms. Harper, he said, offering a slight bow. We've been expecting you. Elena nodded, her gaze skimming past him, landing on the stunned trio in the lobby. Without a word, she pulled a sleek black wallet from her coat and slid her keycard across the desk. Callie scanned it. The system chimed. Welcome, Ms. Harper, she said. Oceanfront Master Suite is prepared to your specifications. All secondary access codes have been updated as requested. Melissa blinked. What the hell is going on? Elena's gaze was level, even tender in that terrible way that only clarity allows. She took 2 steps toward them, her voice low but sharp enough to cut glass. If you want to stay in my house, you'll need to ask properly. No one spoke. The sound of waves crashing outside seemed louder than it should have been. Susan's mouth opened, then closed. Ethan shifted beside her, looking down at his shoes. Jenna captured all of it. The glint in Elena's eye, the subtle pause before she turned away, and the way Mr. Grady moved to hold the elevator door open as if nothing unusual had happened at all. Elena entered the private lift without looking back. The glass doors shut behind her. The lobby was silent. The truth has no expiration date, especially when captured in HD. The courtroom smelled faintly of stale coffee and old carpet, the kind of scent that clings to things long past their expiration. The air buzzed with murmurs, reporters shifting in cheap plastic chairs, phones buzzing in pockets, and the low hum of restless anticipation. Elena sat alone at the defendant's table. No entourage, no second chair for a junior associate. Just a neat black binder, a calm expression, and her name on the docket. Elena Harper versus the estate of Raymond Harper et al. Across the aisle, Melissa leaned into Susan, her eyes darting around as though the walls were rigged to cave in. Susan sat rigid, her blouse starched to unnatural stiffness, her mouth drawn into the familiar line of martyrdom. Judge Collins entered without ceremony. His robe swayed as he sat and glanced at the stack before him. Let's begin. The plaintiff's attorney rose first. Your Honor, we contend that Ms. Harper obtained ownership of Coastal Hollow through coercion and undue influence. Our clients believe her late father, Raymond Harper, was not in full mental capacity when he signed over property rights. Elena didn't flinch. She had known this play before it was even written. Judge Collins turned toward her side. Defense? Mr. Reed stood, calm as ever. We have no long opening, only evidence. He tapped the small screen embedded into the table. A video began to play on the monitor above the bench. Grainy but steady, the frame showed Raymond Harper, seated on the porch of Coastal Hollow 2 years earlier. He was older, yes, silver-haired and slower, but the twinkle in his eyes was clear. He wore his fishing hat, the one Evelyn had always threatened to burn. He looked into the camera and said, "If this house survives me, it belongs to the only person who ever visited without needing anything." She brought coffee, sat with me in silence. Let me be. That girl, Elena, she understands the value of things you can't inherit. No one in the courtroom moved. Mr. Reed stepped aside, allowing the silence to ring. Then Jenna rose from the bench at the back, crisp and certain, and handed over a printed bundle of text messages. The court clerk distributed copies. Judge Collins read aloud. Susan. She's a troubled soul. Lives alone because no one can stand her moods. Let's just keep her away. It's cleaner that way. Melissa. Then let's just say she manipulated Dad. I mean, he's dead. It's our word now. Gasps rippled across the gallery. Even the SoCal Buzz intern stopped typing. The plaintiff's lawyer stammered. These are private messages. Submitted voluntarily, Jenna said firmly. Under oath. Judge Collins sat back. Enough. He looked at Susan and Melissa as if they were cracked porcelain statues in need of disposal. I see no evidence of coercion, he said. Only bitterness thinly veiled as righteousness. The video is dated, facially authentic, and emotionally coherent. The messages from the plaintiffs speak for themselves. He paused, then added, quieter this time. There is no fraud here. There is only a daughter who honors her father better than any of you. Melissa broke first. A whimper. Then her shoulders shook, full sobs racking her frame. Susan said nothing, just pressed her lips tighter, like silence might still undo the judgment. The gavel came down with a sharp finality. Outside the courthouse, the press lights flickered like an old marquee. Elena walked past them all. She didn't smile, didn't wave. She didn't look back. Behind her, Melissa slumped on the bench just inside the building, mascara blurred across her cheekbones. Susan stood still beside her, wordless, hands folded like she was waiting for a train that would never arrive. Jenna lifted her phone. One photo. No filters. She posted it with a single caption. Some silences are earned. I didn't slam any doors. I simply changed the locks. The sky was still stretching awake when Elena padded barefoot through the sun-warmed wood of the hallway, the hem of her linen robe trailing behind her like mist. Outside, the Pacific murmured its timeless lullaby. A soft breeze slipped through the open balcony doors, lifting strands of her hair, brushing against her skin like an old friend. Her fingers wrapped around a ceramic mug. Green tea, no sugar. The kind her father once teased her for, saying it tasted like boiled garden. But this morning it tasted like quiet, like ownership, like ending. She moved slowly through the house, not like someone trying to remember it, but like someone ready to rewrite it. The first to come down was the family portrait in the hallway. Susan's sharp jawline, Melissa's sorority-perfect smile, Ethan trying too hard to look casual. Elena didn't even appear in that one. She never had. She replaced it with a framed photograph of the ocean horizon. No filter, no people. Just movement. The second frame held a younger version of herself at age 17, wind-whipped and grinning, her father handing her something small. Wind chimes, simple ones, made of driftwood and copper rings. She'd forgotten the moment until now. She found them in a small velvet pouch in the cedar trunk, the one Evelyn had left her. The copper had tarnished, but the string held strong. She stepped onto the balcony and tied them to the wrought iron beam. They danced instantly in the morning breeze, releasing soft, unpredictable music. Not beautiful, but honest. Jenna arrived an hour later carrying a bunch of white lilies and an unbothered smile. They're not congratulations, she said. They're for peace. Elena took them with both hands. That's better. They sat side by side on the patio, sipping from mismatched mugs, the wind teasing at their silence but never quite breaking it. Below, the sand was untouched. No suitcases, no sisters, no apologies. Jenna scrolled through her phone. Ethan moved out of state. Melissa changed her number. Susan's Instagram is gone. Elena nodded, not out of interest but closure. Perfect, she murmured. Jenna turned, tilted her head. If they knock again, would you open the door? Elena didn't pause. No need. I'm no longer inside. That sentence hung in the air like final punctuation. The conversation drifted into lighter things. Sunlight on driftwood, how salt always ruins sandals, The absurd price of ethically sourced throw pillows? But eventually, Jenna stood, hugged her once, and left through the side gate, her heels clicking gently against the flagstone. Elena remained on the balcony. She didn't post a photo. She didn't call anyone. She just listened. The wind chimes sang again, a soft, trembling ring. She turned toward the ocean, not to see who was coming, but to feel that no one was. No footsteps followed. No echoes called out her name. And for the first time in a decade, she didn't need to turn around. They erased her name with the quiet cruelty only family can master, omitting, excluding, silencing as if presence itself was something optional. For years, Elena Harper accepted that silence. She internalized the space left behind, convinced that absence was her price for peace. But when the wound stopped bleeding and hardened into resolve, she stopped asking for invitations to a life she already had a birthright to. They never expected her to rise. Not because she couldn't, but because they believed she wouldn't. That's how power works when it feels secure. It becomes blind. They controlled the narrative, the guest lists, the family threads, the legacy distribution. But they forgot one simple truth. Erasing someone from memory doesn't remove them from history. Especially not someone who was ready to reclaim both. Elena didn't fight them with rage or noise. She fought with documents, with timelines, with evidence. Every move measured, not emotional. She didn't need an apology carved from guilt or a reunion masked in forced affection. What she needed, and ultimately created, was a space where her dignity wasn't questioned, where her name wasn't an afterthought, and where no one could deny that she was, and had always been, part of the story. When the courtroom echoed with her father's recorded words, clear, warm, unforced, it wasn't just legal closure, it was something deeper. A reawakening of identity, a vindication of memory. Her father, the only one who ever saw her without needing anything from her, had spoken a truth no cross-examination could twist. And when her family stood before her in silence, unable to enter the house they once hoarded as their own, Elena didn't gloat. She didn't scream, accuse, or punish. She simply stood still, let the silence stretch, and walked away. Because real power doesn't perform. It ends the performance. What Elena's story reveals is that justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet return. A name reappeared on a deed. A door that no longer opens to the wrong hands. A wind chime hanging from a balcony, catching a breeze that never asked permission. The lesson, then, is not only about retaliation, but restoration. In a world where manipulation hides behind smiles and exclusion dresses as tradition, justice requires clarity. It demands persistence. And often it asks us to endure before it allows us to act. When injustice is met with unwavering courage, the final verdict can echo through a lifetime. Not because it punishes perfectly, but because it liberates fully. Elena didn't just reclaim a house. She reclaimed the right to be remembered as whole. And in doing so, she proved something simple yet radical. You don't have to stay angry to stay powerful. Many who've been quietly cast aside will find something familiar in Elena's journey. The ache of being unacknowledged, the gaslighting of subtle betrayals, the internal war between confronting and walking away. But perhaps the deepest resonance comes not from her victory, but from how she chose to live after it. With wind chimes, green tea, an open ocean, and no footsteps behind her. Because revenge fades, but dignity stays. So if someone out there still doubts their place in the room, still wonders if absence means unworthiness, may they remember this. No wall of lies can stand forever against the tide of truth. And perhaps standing up today means you'll never again have to bow to injustice tomorrow. They erased my name from invitations, from photos, from the story they told themselves. But when the silence grew too loud to ignore, I stopped asking for space and took back the house. If you've ever been left off the list, not by accident but by design, if you've been told to stay quiet, to let things go, to be the bigger person, then you already understand. Share your story in the comments, even if you've never said it out loud before. Because silence doesn't protect you, it erases you. And if this story struck something in you, hit like, subscribe, stay. Not out of vengeance, but because dignity deserves a witness. And maybe, today, that witness is you.